You are listening to Insights from the Conference Board.
Hello, my name is Camilla Andretta, Research Analyst in Human Capital at the Conference Board, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to this edition of Insights, a series which helps talent executives address challenges and stay informed about current issues across the entire spectrum of human capital. This series is brought to you by the Conference Board. Today, I will be sitting down with Marion Devine, who is Senior Researcher in Human Capital at the Conference Board, and we will talk about the future of work, sharing some highlights from a piece of research that we produced in partnership with a group of European heads of HR. So to start with, Marion, you have developed a Future-Scape framework to help companies envisage what the future of work means for their business and their people's strategies. Can you introduce us to this model?
Yeah, thank you, Camilla. So you and I worked on this model with our executives. And I think the thing that we saw was that when it comes to the future of work, it's a very big agenda and companies struggle to talk about it with each other because it's very hard to find that sort of shared language of what they're doing. So we developed this framework to help our leaders be able to talk to each other, to understand where they were concentrating their strategies. And really, I think our message is that there are some common dimensions in the future of work, but what we're calling a Future-Scape is that every company has its own individual, unique Future-Scape that is the way it is adapting to the future, that's aligned with its own culture and its own priorities. And I think that therefore, every company, when it comes to making its choices, those choices have to be based on its purpose, its strategy, its culture, the experience that it wants to give to its employees. So we found in our framework that basically there are 4 dimensions for any company's Future-Scape. And the first one is the business model. This is the way that the company is competing to deliver value to its customers, to its other stakeholders. And I think that the key shift we're seeing is that business model transformation really seems to be accelerating. And companies are moving from what was incremental change to a much more disruptive questioning, redefining of how to create and deliver value. And we've seen in the Conference Board that COVID-19 has driven a decade's worth of digital transformation. So companies have really adopted digital technology. We've also seen a very interesting intersection now between digital and sustainability. So companies are looking to create business models that are driven by sustainability values and enabled by digital technology. Now, why this matters is because this flows onto the next dimension of how work is done, how the company is creating this value. So companies are now having a huge variety of choices for how work should adapt. So how to redesign work to incorporate digital technologies, automation, AI, and hybrid work models. So we're seeing as well, again, this interaction between human and machine that's changing the nature of tasks and skills and jobs. And we're seeing a skills-based economy emerging. So that's a very significant area, I think, that companies are working on. And there is a massive mandate as well for upskilling and reskilling employees. And then this brings us on to the third dimension, and this is about your own workforce. And we're seeing an increasingly global and multi-generational workforce. And this means that actually companies can draw on lots of different types of diversity of the workforce, different talent, different education, different work and life experience, gender, sexual orientation, values, culture, faith, belief. You know, it's a very, very, very diverse workforce. And the companies that can leverage this are going to have a very inclusive culture. But I think when it comes to the workforce as well, we're seeing again through COVID, there's been a massive increase in very flexible ways of working. And with this multi-generational workforce, companies are really having to adapt to lots of different needs and expectations of the workforce. And flexible working is one of them. And along with this, I think, is the desire for more autonomy and empowerment. And there are new opportunities for workers to have the type of working life that fits their needs and expectations. So that's the third dimension. And then the fourth dimension is all this changes the workplace. The workplace really has become a concept. Work has been decoupled from a fixed physical location. So workplace can be physical, virtual, remote, and it can even be shifting. And this means that companies really have to rethink about what they mean by the workplace, and particularly the physical workplace. And they're thinking about the physical workplace as a place to really deliver experience, to reinforce the company culture, to create connection and collaboration across workers. So those are our 4 dimensions, Camilla, and we found that when we talked to our companies that they could talk to us about what they were doing in each of those 4 dimensions.
Yes, thank you, Marion. And so we would like to share a couple of examples of companies that we spoke to better illustrate the model. The first example concerns a healthcare technology company that, thanks to the use of data, AI, and medical innovation, has been developing highly tailored therapies. And the most striking change that we heard from this company is that its business model is moving away from fee for product to fee for outcome, thus shifting from providing a product to offering holistic solutions. And medical innovation is clearly impacting the nature of work in this company, and new capabilities are needed in areas such as software engineering, AI, and data analytics. And to find the right talent, this company is actually competing with tech firms such as Amazon and Facebook that are leveraging big data to move into healthcare. And once the right talent has been found, the challenge is then to retain it. And in the discussion about retention, a key role is played by flexible working, which, according to this company, needs to be well balanced with the business needs to work effectively. So, this was just a short example of one of the companies we spoke to. Marion, would you like to share another company example?
Yeah, thank you, Camilla. So another company that we spoke to as a case study is a company that's a white goods manufacturing company. And in terms of its business model, this model is really changing. And again, COVID has really speeded it up. The company has gone from many sort of traditional retail outlets to a globally integrated operation, which is a big shift. But also, more importantly, it's looking to technological innovation to work with customers in a new way to deliver very innovative, very personalized services and products. And it's very much thinking about customer experience. So the business model is changing. And from that, we can see for this company that the nature of work is changing. The company is starting to adopt smart manufacturing. It's using collaborative robots, 3D printing, rapid prototyping, and also wearable technology for workers. It's created a digital product organization. And this is actually, again, a big departure for a traditional manufacturing company. It's now recruiting very in demand software engineers who might not normally consider joining a manufacturing business. And so this digital product organization is really ideal for the company to start piloting new ways of working, especially agile processes. So you can see in this company, the business model is changing, and from that is changing the nature of work and the use of technology. And from that, the company is really starting to recruit a new type of employee. But also, when it comes to workers, it's also asking people to work in new ways. So, for example, the shift to innovative customer experiences is requiring workers to work in much more cross-functional teams with a lot more collaboration. So often specialists from R&D and marketing and design, digital consumer solutions and sustainability. There's a whole different type of team that the company needs to put together. And also because they're creating these very personalized, differentiated products and services, it means they need people with new skills in customer relationships, because e-commerce really provides companies with new opportunities to interact very directly with customers. So again, this means that they need to help their staff upskill and reskill with data analytics and digital marketing. And this combination is really key. And we've heard that in other companies. So you can see that for this company, this is really changing the workforce and consequently the culture. The company really believes that it has to have a sustainable culture, and this means sustainable people. And I really like the fact that it's made an explicit connection between its sustainability strategy and what that means for how it leads and manages its people. And so it wants to help employees to be resilient, ready for change. So upskilling and reskilling, becoming a learning organisation is really critical. And also the company is talking about shifting its leadership model, a new leadership model which is emphasising fostering collaborative work across the organisation and creating this sort of a sense of a one company. So they're really sort of working with leaders to create trust, strong relationships, listen, coach, embrace diversity. So you can see that for this company, its FutureScape is really marked by how it wants to become a globally integrated and innovative company.
Thanks, Marion. I think it was really interesting to listen to what these companies are doing in the year of the future work. And we moving on, we would also like to share some recommendations that we heard from this company, as they could be useful for other companies that are trying to prepare for the future work. And so one key advice that we heard from this company is that to try and map out a futurescape successfully, it's important to start by helping leaders visualize the future state, so encouraging them to reflect on how a successful business will look like in 10 years. And since it's likely that leaders across the organization will have different views on this, it's important to listen to different perspectives and try to integrate them. And another advice that we heard is that it's important to establish clarity in the ownership of the future work agenda. And this is to avoid conflicting priorities and competition for resources. And since reimagining work requires many, many efforts, it is key to frame the future of work agenda in the context of big strategic priorities or business transformation. So these are just a couple of recommendations, but we have some more. So, Marion.
Yeah, thank you, Camilla. And I think, as Camilla said, that the recommendations that we've distilled from our research are really the recognition that the future of work is a very big agenda, and people understand it in different ways. And it's very interesting. If you say, what does the future of work mean to you? People come out with all sorts of different answers. So I think having that clarity, as Camilla said, is absolutely essential. And of course, this brings us to, well, what is the role of the people function? And HR needs to partner and lead in some ways in any significant corporate transformation. And I think that something that the leaders said to us was for when it comes to the future of work, again, to try and clarify some expectations about what is HR's role in this. Is it coordinating and facilitating what is probably lots of different initiatives and work streams? Because they were saying that sometimes the ownership of the future of work can be scattered across different business divisions or regions. But actually, something that leaders also said to us was that, it's easy for the company to think perhaps short term, to be very pragmatic, and sometimes there needs to be an ambition and a vision. And HR can play a really great role in challenging top leaders to have a far-reaching vision and strategy for the future of work. There is an opportunity to reimagine and reinvent all sorts of dimensions of work. So that's, I think, a really important message. Practically speaking, it's important for HR just to help ensure that there is a shared change methodology for major reinvention efforts, because we heard from executives that sometimes, because some of these initiatives bubble up in different parts of the businesses may sort of implicitly assume that they are competing for their own approach. They might be using agile or design thinking or lean or Six Sigma. And it can be very difficult, therefore, to connect and to scale up these disparate pilots into what is needed, which is an integrated enterprise-wide initiative. So it's just important to get a shared change methodology and a sense that everybody is actually working towards the same goal. And then finally, really, is a clear message from our research was highlight clear examples of new ways of working as rapidly as possible. Because again, sometimes there could be resistance. People may not understand what the company is trying to achieve. So wherever as possible, run a small number of pilots to build that sense of possibility and excitement for change. And this will also enable perhaps creating that infrastructure, a budget, dedicated teams that are there ready to enable rapid scale up. So those were the key recommendations that we've distilled from our research.
Thank you, Marion, for this really interesting conversation. And thanks to our audience for listening. We really hope that this podcast was helpful for you to better understand what the future work means in practice. You can access the full report by Marion Devine and Camilla Andretta by clicking on the link provided in the podcast description or by simply Googling Conference Board FutureScape. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to our Insights podcast series or explore the entire catalogue of podcast programming from the Conference Board on our website at tcb.org/podcast.
This has been Insights from the Conference Board.